Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Moving Markets Podcast. It is Wednesday, August the 5th, 2026. In just a few seconds here, the stock market is going to open, and we've got another day. Seems unbelievable. We've got another day where futures all pointing to the upside. It looks like the market's going to have another strong open today, and we'll see if we run into any fatigue in the near future. I think the only thing that might slow this market down in the immediate future is going to be a really ugly type of development over in the Middle East, or just a little bit of market fatigue. We might just hit a wall and have a little bit of a slowdown. I mean, look at how much the S&P has been up just in the last three trading sessions. This is just, I mean, that's just an incredible move up right there. Talk about blowing past a level of resistance and just breaking right through it. And then, you've got a similar story on the Dow and the Nasdaq. The Dow just absolutely blowing through that little bit of resistance level right there, and the Nasdaq doing the same thing. I believe. I know the Dow hit record territory yesterday. I believe the S&P hit record territory yesterday. And the Nasdaq, which has been a little more beat up over the last month and a half, it's right on the heels. I think within the Nasdaq could be a little bit different because you've still got this stuff going on in the chip sector where there's this back and forth, and it's nothing highlights that more than AMD's report last night after the market closed. And I'm so upset we couldn't get I'm just bummed that we were not successful in getting into an AMD trade. Um, this is what I've been running into. Just for those of you that are anxious to get into some more trades, especially on the triple play side of things. Um, let alone the main SOS spread trades. We weren't successful. I don't, no one told me that they were successful in getting into the Google trade that we put out 2 days ago. I'm still working on stuff. The thing I'm running into over and over again with these trades is I'm not of a mindset to go completely directional on some of this stuff. I worry about, that instant turnaround, something that's looking good and moving in a positive direction, and then all of a sudden something surprises us, or we get some news and it turns around and goes the other direction. We had that happen with Micron. We've had that happen with AMD recently. We've run into that a couple of times, and I'm nervous about that. I don't want to run into that again, and so I am reluctant to go, commit to a direction, even in the midst of this bullish run. But with the non-directional stuff, what I'm running into is prices that are just high. They're just abnormally high. I mentioned this a few days ago. A $5 spread, meaning the difference between the long and the short side of a long iron condor. On either side of the trade, the difference between the long option and the short option is, if it's a $5 spread, I'm looking for things that are no more than four to maybe $4.05, maybe $4.10. And I'm seeing prices that are, 450, 460, and the risk to reward ratio is just not sufficient to justify that amount of money in the trade. And so that's what I'm running into. I spent from, the market opens at 7:30 my time. I'm in Mountain Time Zone. I've spent from 6:30 to 7:30, an hour this morning, just looking at about a dozen different potential trades. Some of them, the upcoming earnings that we haven't gone through yet. In fact, let me jump on the calendar back to starting with today. Um, I'm looking at stuff that closes, or reports at the close today. SanDisk. I would love to do a trade on SanDisk. A $10 spread on SanDisk. The price of the trade was $9.45. Again, that's just not a sufficient risk to reward ratio to justify it. ELF, which we have, this is not a stock that I follow a lot, but they are volatile around earnings. ELF Beauty, I can't remember what the ELF stands for, but we've made good money on trades on ELF before. But again, the price of the trade was just not very good. Um, I looked at I'll just give you an idea of some others that I'm and we might find some strike prices and some prices that we like. So I haven't given up on these. Datadog. I've tried several times to get into a trade on Datadog. They report tomorrow morning before the open. I think they would make a phenomenal trade. I love how volatile they get around earnings. I but look at how much this thing has moved. Um, it has had a big run up, but earnings are volatile for this company, and I would love to take advantage of that. So I want you to know I'm still working on trades. I'm still looking for things that I think would make good opportunities. I'm also looking at some companies that have just recently reported, um, and looking for those levels of support or resistance that we can feel really good about. Not that things can't turn. We always have to be careful of that. But Caterpillar just had a phenomenal earnings. Um, they were up a lot yesterday, and then they gave back a fair amount of that. I'm looking at Caterpillar, and if we get these technical crossovers, we're still a little ways away on the RSI. We're a little ways away on the 5 and 20-day moving average, but all of the news on Caterpillar was good. The MACD has crossed over, and that oftentimes is the first of these three technical indicators to cross is oftentimes the MACD. So we look at the MACD. Once that's crossed over, then we pay a little bit closer attention to these next two. If we get those crossovers on Caterpillar, I'll do a straight bullish trade because I think they could very quickly move back up to 1050. That's a big drop on Caterpillar, and I would love nothing more than to get into a good trade on them. And so I'm not opposed to going directional on some of these, but it's really got to be the ideal circumstances and the right thing. We made good money on the Boeing trade that we got out of recently. I feel a little more confident that Boeing now might again hold a level of 220. If I could find a good trade using that as a strong level of support now, I'll do it. So I know you pay for a service like this. You want to be in trades. You want to get the good ideas. You want to get the good trades sent out. I'll just urge you to continue to be patient. It's not for lack of looking, but I'm not going to get us into something that I don't feel very strong about. Um, Whoops, I clicked on SanDisk. I meant to click on SpaceX. SpaceX reported yesterday, and they did kind of what I thought they would do. I had a feeling no matter what kind of revenue they reported, no matter what kind of numbers we got, I had a feeling SpaceX was going to be down, but I didn't want to do something non-directional there. Now I am thinking strong about maybe doing an in the money bear put and doing it around this 120 mark if I can get a good price. I think 120 is a level that it'll be hard for them to jump back above on a short-term trade, something that's only a week to a week and a half out. And in the money bear put seems to make sense there. So I'm looking at some things like that as well. On a really positive front, we did a trade a while back on a spread trade on SPY, the Spider S&P 500 index, and I think most people exited that yesterday in the neighborhood of 15%. If you didn't get out yesterday at 15%, you can probably get out today at 15% or better. Our Nvidia trade that we've been in for quite some time is looking so vastly improved. Nvidia is looking so good compared to what it was. We're not quite in a position where I want to roll that one out again. But we might not be far from it. If you remember Nvidia, we went clear out to some January leap long calls, and then we did some short calls much nearer expiration. We rolled those down to 220, the short calls, and then we rolled them straight out recently, and now we've got Nvidia moving up nicely. I think Nvidia is likely I believe they're going to run back up. They're back above 220 now. I believe they're going to run back up to 230 ahead of their earnings date. They report on the 26th, but I'm really liking this 210 mark now as a spot for maybe a short term in the money bull call spread. And I will add another Nvidia spread trade, long iron condor, um, before their earnings, but I'd like to get a little closer to their earnings. So that's where we find ourselves on a Wednesday morning. Things generally going very well. Um, yeah, Jeff, you're not. Jeff asked again. Jeff, I told you 2 days ago, Jeff, that I was going to work on updating the spreadsheets, and I got distracted with a little bit of stuff here at home and some family stuff going on, and then I've been so anxiously looking for new trades that I have kind of neglected that. You're not doing anything wrong. I will get all of that updated before the end of this week. So, on the trade tracker, any of those that you see that are not up to date, I will get those up to date before this week is over. I might just have to pick them off one at a time. I've got to do it both on the regular spread trade tracker as well as the triple play tracker. So I apologize. I'll work on getting those up to date this week. It's nothing that you're doing wrong. It's 100% on me. So, I like where we're at. I'm at the point now where a number of collar trades need to be adjusted. We had that big move on Palantir on their earnings. Palantir, I believe they're moving up again today, up to 165. So we'll adjust Palantir out. I think Palantir can continue to push higher. If I look at a much longer chart on Palantir and go out a couple of years on this one, they got up over $200 a share, and I'm not sure that they're not going to make. In fact, I'm kind of leaning towards Palantir probably making a run back towards 200. So I may do another long-term bullish trade on Palantir in the very near future here, because I think that's a probability that that's what they're going to do, is make another run. I think at the very least they'll move to that next strong level of resistance that I see around the 180 mark is where I see the next strong resistance level. So, something on Palantir for a longer term bullish trade there. And then a lot of the collar trades, like I said, are going to need to be adjusted, starting with Palantir, and then I think we need to make an adjustment to, well, Uber. I shouldn't leave out Uber. A lot of you are in an Uber trade with us, and this is one of the few earnings that didn't go so well. Uber, it's interesting because it opened this morning with a big jump up, and now it's trading down, and futures had it pointing to the downside. And so Uber's been stuck. This is not a very big range, 76 down here to 70. That's kind of a tight range that they've been in for some time. I wouldn't mind if Uber had a little bit deeper sell-off, because it would give us a chance to leverage into more shares, and then we could, really profit from that in the long run. So it wouldn't hurt my feelings if Uber sold off a little bit more. Um, Yeah, Jeff added the big change in Palantir. The last three earnings in a row, it went down. So that's part of the reason I think that big move is coming, because I think some of the movement down on Palantir was justified just based on the valuation. They were trading at a much higher multiple than some other companies that were kind of in a similar space. And so I think a little bit of the movement down was justified, but those people who kept saying they're going to grow into their earnings, they're going to grow into their valuation. I think they're all patting themselves on the back and saying they were right. Again, I think some of the move was justified to the downside, but I think they got overly beat up on in a way that wasn't, completely fair. It is what it is. The market will give you what the market will give you, regardless of whether you think it's fair or not. But yeah, I think a run back up to 200 is in the very near future for Palantir. So something long-term bullish on that. Keep an eye out for that. All right. I'm going to keep work. I'm going to spend the rest of this day continuing to work on new trades. That I would still love to get us into some more new stuff. So I'm going to keep working on that. Stay patient. I'm not going to put us into a trade that I don't feel really good about the high probability. And then with that, I want some good risk to reward ratio as well. So I will keep working on that and get stuff out as I see it. In the meantime, have a great rest of your Wednesday. Hopefully we get into some new trades today. That's going to be my sole focus for the next couple of hours. Then, Jeff, I will get to those spreadsheets and give that some time today as well. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.